A cartel convoy moves under cover of night, radios crackling. For years, these operatives have mastered ambushes and smuggling, but then the first silent drone appears. Within seconds, coordinates are relayed, and precision-guided munitions strike. The unit is thrown into chaos, not just by the destruction, but by the cognitive shock of facing tactics and technologies that reduce their once-proven methods to relics. The US weapon systems are so far ahead that cartel engineers reportedly can't even understand them. Cartels thrive on copying and improvising, welding armor to trucks, strapping explosives to consumer drones. But against US systems designed for modern warfare, they confront machines so advanced that even their best engineers cannot reverse engineer the logic. This is not about firepower. It is a gap in comprehension so wide it reduces them to confusion and desperation. The MQ-9 Reaper drone embodies this imbalance. Cartel drones are crude quadcopters. The MQ-9 flies at 50,000 feet, its multispectral cameras spotting heat signatures across entire valleys. Operators track convoys by engine warmth and pinpoint labs by the flicker of a torch. Cartel engineers realize they are fighting against flying fortresses that can loiter for 24 hours and unleash a Hellfire missile with surgical precision. The psychological weight of being stalked by a machine, they cannot even see tears at cartel confidence long before a strike lands. The Army's MPQ-64 Sentinel radar adds another layer of superiority. Cartel lookouts rely on binoculars, but US radars track multiple aerial threats simultaneously, detecting even small drones with signatures no larger than birds. These systems, designed for missile defense, are now aimed at cartel adaptations, reducing even the most cunning drone swarms to blips on a screen. The implication is devastating. Their attempts to mimic insurgent tactics are outpaced by defenses originally meant for state-level adversaries. What took them years to build in the shadows took seconds to dismantle from the sky. Elite US Special Forces drive the point home. Cartels build their reputations on fear with armored convoys and sicarios. Yet when Delta Force or SEAL Team 6 move, the cartel experience is inverted. Operators descend in the dead of night, guided by drone surveillance that pinpoints safe houses down to the room where a target sleeps. Their raids are surgical: silencers, night vision, and breaching charges. For cartels used to brute force, the precision of these raids feels almost supernatural. Survivors describe operations where resistance seemed futile before it even began. Their communications cut off and their leaders eliminated.
Before we get to that, I need your help. I'm trying to hit 50,000 subscribers by the end of the year, and I need your help. So I would really appreciate it if you could subscribe and help me out.
Their confidence, built on layers of reinforced concrete, was a flimsy curtain before the storm. Air power deepens the chasm. The F-35 Lightning II is a node in a vast data network, executing strikes with a stealth profile that renders it nearly invisible. Cartel convoys, accustomed to dodging military helicopters, face a threat they cannot see or anticipate. AC-130 gunships, with side-mounted cannons, hover unseen at altitude, raining firepower so accurate that individual vehicles are destroyed without touching others beside them. These are not tools cartels can replicate. They are symbols of an unbridgeable technological divide. Their knowledge, honed over decades, was a map to a battlefield that no longer exists. Electronic warfare deepens the chasm. Pulsar jammers disrupt cartel drone communications, severing links between pilot and craft. The drones cartels labor to modify become lifeless husks midair. In moments, entire drone fleets are neutralized without a single bullet fired. For cartel engineers, the experience is maddening. Their supposed advantage, cheap aerial eyes, becomes an exercise in futility, their resources wasted against unseen forces. The maritime domain is no safer. Rapid response and interdiction forces extend US reach to sea lanes cartels rely on for smuggling. Navy destroyers bristle with radar arrays and missile systems cartels cannot hope to threaten. The US is not just fighting on land. It is fighting them in the one place they cannot hide. Each route, once reliable, becomes a risk-laden gamble. This technological domination carries as much an emotional weight as a tactical one. Cartel engineers are skilled improvisers. Yet when they confront U.S. systems, they realize they are outmatched in ways beyond repair. Their ingenuity, once enough to terrorize, becomes irrelevant against radars that see through darkness, drones that loiter for days, or jammers that silence entire fleets. What they cannot understand, they cannot counter. And what they cannot counter, they eventually learn to fear. Their sophisticated radar, tuned to detect the known, was deaf to the inevitable. The stakes are immense. Cartels are businesses fueled by violence, and their survival depends on being seen as untouchable. But when U.S. systems intervene, that myth shatters. Each technological strike is a psychological blow that erodes the aura of dominance cartels rely on. The gap between cartel improvisation and U.S. military systems is a matter of eras. Cartels operate in the age of backyard engineering, while U.S. forces wield the tools of fifth-generation warfare. For cartel operatives, the battlefield becomes a place of ghosts and shadows, where enemies strike from distances they cannot perceive. And in that gap lies the decisive truth. The United States does not merely fight cartels with better weapons. It fights them with weapons cartels cannot even begin to understand. The essence of cognitive shock is paralyzing surprise. Cartel fighters, conditioned to expect firefights with rivals, find themselves hunted by AI-driven surveillance. The suddenness of this realization interrupts their ability to coordinate. Radios that once linked convoys sputter into silence. In seconds, tactical confidence becomes hesitation, and hesitation is fatal. They were a network, but now each link was a trap. This shock is amplified by the psychological gap between expectation and reality. The sight of drones or precision raids feels incomprehensible. A gun battle is understandable. A missile that arrives without warning feels like facing an opponent with near supernatural reach. Morale collapses under this pressure.
Before we get to that, I need your help. I'm trying to hit 50,000 subscribers by the end of the year, and I need your help. So I would really appreciate it if you could subscribe and help me out.
Guerrilla-style strategies are rendered obsolete, and cohesion begins to fracture. Fighters who once believed themselves untouchable realize they are vulnerable in every dimension. Command and control, the backbone of cartel logistics, is particularly vulnerable. When drones strike supply routes, electronic countermeasures sever communications, and precision raids decapitate leadership. The network fractures. Without coordination, smuggling operations stall, and without logistics, power collapses. The effect is not linear, it is cascading. The sudden loss of one node destabilizes many others, spreading confusion faster than physical destruction ever could. This is why U.S. technological dominance creates forced adaptation crises. Every strike forces cartel leaders to rethink their operations. Do they abandon radios? Do they scatter convoys? Each choice carries risk, and none provide certainty. Under pressure, hasty decisions lead to further errors. A cartel that once thrived on controlling the rhythm of conflict finds itself reactive, constantly adjusting to an enemy that rewrites the rules. They fired first. We simply ensured they wouldn't fire again. The relevance of this cognitive shock cannot be overstated. It reveals why technology is not just an advantage in physical terms, but a multiplier in psychological terms. Fear of the unknown, drones they cannot see, algorithms they cannot counter, becomes as effective as the actual strike. In combat, perception drives behavior, and by destabilizing perception, U.S. technologies win before the fight begins. The genius of these systems lies in their combination. Precision targeting kills leaders, but doesn't stop replacements. Unpredictable strikes cause fear, but not collapse. Psychological warfare causes hesitation, but not defeat. Communication disruption creates confusion, but not total paralysis. Together, they form a complete environment where paralysis is both inevitable and inescapable. It is not one strike that cripples the cartel. It is the continuous convergence of every strike, every jam, every surveillance feed, every psychological tremor grinding down the will to act. In the end, the lethality of U.S. systems is not measured only in casualties, but in silence. Silence in radios, silence in abandoned safe houses, silence in leaders who stop issuing orders, silence in recruits who stop volunteering. It is the silence of an organization that once thrived on violence, now unable to function. These systems are designed to kill, yes, but more importantly, they are designed to kill the will to act. And when that will dies, the cartel is no longer a cartel. It is a fractured shadow of itself, paralyzed by forces it cannot see, cannot match, and cannot stop.